Hello my sweets, it's Keisha. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for choosing to watch my video. With leaves soon turning and the chill sets in, we're diving into fall with a bang. Today I've got a cozy compilation of my top 6 inspiration videos. From easy DIY projects to customizable decor ideas and budget-friendly tips, I've got everything you need to make your autumn extra special. So grab a cozy blanket, a hot cup of apple cider, and let's get inspired for this beautiful season together. Today I'm going to show you how to resize these Dollar Tree pumpkins 2 ways, and then show you how I made a simple yet beautiful wall decor piece perfect for fall. Alright, let's get to it! A list of the supplies I used are in the description box below. To begin, I removed the stem and tag from each pumpkin. Next, I marked one side seam on each pumpkin. Pay close attention to the ridges and mark the same seam. This will help to easily match up the pieces later. I neglected to do that and didn't realize it until later. Next, I glued 6 pieces of scrap foam core to act as a guide for cutting the pumpkins. Mine measures just shy of 1¼ inches. Here I'm showing you that I want to make my cut just before the pumpkin starts to curve. I'm using a serrated steak knife strictly for crafts. You can use another cutting tool, just be mindful that you will need to adjust the amount of foam core you use for your guide. Next, I place my knife flatly against the guide. Using my left hand, I rotate the pumpkin while keeping it flat against the surface, and using a sawing motion with my right hand to cut the pumpkin. Go slow, and if you need, you can use double-sided tape to keep your block in one place. I turned the second pumpkin upside down and followed the same previous steps. Here you can see I'm left with one big top and one small top. I matched the 2 bigger pieces together and the 2 smaller pieces together. And here's where I realized I didn't mark the same seams. I simply rotated the pieces until the ridges matched. Next, I glued the pieces together using my glue gun set on low. Once the glue had set, I filled the large gaps with hot glue. To blend the seams, I used spackling from Dollar Tree. I also took the time to fill the original seams to the pumpkins. Of course, that is an optional step. I end up doing 2 coats of spackling, letting it dry about 30 minutes before applying the second coat. The second method for changing the size of the pumpkins I'm going to show you next. So I went ahead and marked the side seams of the pumpkin so that I can match them up. On this one, I'm going to end up cutting it into 3 sections. I did mark an arrow here so that I know that this, which end needs to point up. So first thing I have is 2 pieces of poster board. And then we're going to use this ribbon package, and this is a 5/8 inch ribbon package. You could use an empty one or a full one. I didn't have any empty ones, so helps if I use the right gun. So I'm just going to put a little dab of glue to stick this on here, and then that way I can remove it later. And just so you know about the height of this, this is about 1 1/8 inches. So now I'm going to take my no, I'm not going to take my knife yet, sorry. So I'm going to take my pumpkin and I'm going to use the edge of this ribbon to just score the pumpkin. So I'm just going to turn it, and it's going to give me a score line. Okay, so it gives you where you're going to cut, and it should cut around evenly. And then you're going to flip the pumpkin upside down and do that again. And there you go. So you're going to cut out this section and use this in the center of this one. Now, this pumpkin is about 4 inches, and so keep grabbing the wrong glue gun. We're gonna just do 2 little things of glue there just to keep it together while we're doing this. And the height of this is about 1 7/8, so it's almost in half. It's close enough. So we're gonna do the same thing. Just use this here, or if you want to come in with your knife and immediately cut it, just be aware that it'll bring it up just a little bit, which I'll go ahead and there, do that. And then you just want to use that to help you keep your knife pretty level. So you have that 1 1/2, and then we're going to cut this section out here to sandwich in between that one we just cut in half. So when you're cutting this one with no guide, you want to just make sure your blade, try to keep it as level as possible when cutting, and just follow your guideline, and you just want to try to keep it as level as possible with the table. Okay, we're just going to set this piece to the side, set this down, and come in with the knife again and just try to make sure it's level. You don't want it pointing down, or you don't want it pointing up. You want to try to point it straight in there. I wondered what that was. Okay, so you can see my thing is splitting a little bit. That's okay, because we're going to end up gluing them all together. So now you just want to line these up, and of course if you have any of the little styrofoam balls trying to hang out, kind of get rid of them. That split might actually work out to our advantage, because we can fill the gaps if need be. So you just want to line everything up and glue your pieces down as close as possible to the edges. But with that being said, if you don't completely make the mark, it's okay, because the spackling will help smooth some of that out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, since that's apart, I'm just going to take that off. So then we're going to put the top on, and don't worry about that big gap there, because we can fill in some of this area with hot glue before we come in with the spackling, and just make that right again. So you can come in here and kind of start building up the glue. You want to be sure that each time you do a layer, that it's completely dry first before you move on to your next layer. Otherwise you'll just have a big oozing mess. So I'm just going to put a little bit in here to let that get started. And I'm actually not going to turn it because, I mean, I would like to do two sides at once, but I know this glue already that I'm using is, it stays warm for a while, so I'm just going to let it cool down naturally and then naturally fill that in. So when I'm done doing that portion, I will be back. Okay, so this last opening is still drying a little bit, but I wanted to come in and talk about these areas here. Sometimes you'll see, because I've done this a couple of times now, sometimes you'll see gaps that are even bigger than this. If you're comfortable with doing the glue gun method, you're welcome to just put the glue in there and then use your finger to smooth it out. Now this is on a low setting, so it's not like it's warm, but it's not setting my finger on fire. It's just not a method that I prefer to do, just for the fact that for me, I find that the glue is harder to sand over. So, but if it is a pretty big gap, you can put glue down in there just so that when you go around with the spackling to smooth the joints, you're not using as much spackling to do that. But it is just a matter of preference how you fill in the gaps that are in the pumpkin here. Like this one, I wouldn't even bother with the hot glue. I'm just gonna go ahead and do the spackling over that portion. So just like the last one, I'm just gonna smooth the spackling over the joint and then let it dry. And I did end up doing, I believe 2 rounds of spackling. One kind of like the skim coat, and then let that set up and then come back through with a second coat to kind of give it a more smooth look. But this is what we have for the second method. Now, I don't remember if I did a side-by-side comparison yet, but here is the side-by-side comparison of the two. This one is the first one that we just cut and swapped the bottom and the top, so you can kind of see what the difference is here. I'm trying to hold them level so you can see. This one is a little bit bigger, and it's just gonna vary how much bigger the pumpkins are based on how much you cut for this middle section here. So my next step is to go ahead and fill this in with spackling. So I'll be back. This is what the second method looks like with 2 coats of spackling. And here is a comparison of what some of the pumpkins look like after sanding. I now have a nice size variety of Dollar Tree foam pumpkins, and I can paint or cover them in fabric. Here's another side-by-side comparison of the pumpkins. The one in the center is the original uncut one. And here's how I decorated the large one and the small one from the previous picture. For this project, I used a free printable, but you can also use the leaf cutout pictured. I also used this 12 by 12 canvas from Michaels, but an 8 by 10 or 11 by 14 from Dollar Tree would work with the printable. After cutting out the leaf, I traced it onto the Dollar Tree faux wood contact paper. Next, I cut the leaf from the contact paper inside the lines. Next, I mixed crimson with a drop of navy blue and burnt umber, pumpkin with a drop of red and burnt umber, and maize with a drop of pumpkin and burnt umber. Then I watered them down. You don't have to use these exact colors, use what you have on hand. Next, I began with the yellow mixture and dabbed off the excess paint, and began painting my leaf. You don't want to overly saturate the leaf. You want to build up the color as you go. I moved to the orange and then eventually the red. I continued to apply the colors until I was satisfied with the way it looked and set it aside to dry. Once dry, I went around the edges and eventually the middle of the leaf with Waverly Antique Wax to give the leaf some depth. After the leaf was fully dry, I applied it to the canvas using E6000 spray adhesive and set it aside to dry. I am using these wood square shapes to spell out fall. I first did a layer of ivory chalk paint. Now I'm using the Dollar Tree stencil and navy paint to stencil the letters. I went in with a fine paintbrush to fill in the F and the A and to also clean up the other letters. Then I used Waverly Wax and Antique to H them. Next, I cut 13 inches of this orange burlap ribbon, then I cut it in half lengthwise. To keep the ribbon from falling apart, I decided to spray it with starch. As an alternative, you can use Mod Podge. The color of this ribbon is a little bright for this project, so I decided to dab some antique wax over it to bring the color down. Next, to give it a little shine, I'm using homemade spray paint, which is gold acrylic paint thinned down with rubbing alcohol. I also applied the gold spray to the leaf. I felt like the ribbon pieces were too wide, so I thinned them down and then glued them onto the canvas. Next, I added the fall squares. I contemplated adding a small twine bow, but in the end decided against it. What do you think? With a bow or no? I absolutely love this project. It brings in all of the fall colors that I love and a splash of gold. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Today is the Open Invite Nailed It or Failed It Challenge High-End Fall Edition, hosted by Carrie from Mama Dares to DIY and I, Keisha from Sweet Urban Rose. We challenged our YouTube creator friends to choose a high-end fall decor item they would like to have in their homes and dupe it for less. So when you're done watching my video, be sure to check out the playlist linked in the description box below. Today I'm going to show you how I duped these $70 wooden pumpkins from Kirklands using Dollar Tree items. If you're ready to see how, just keep watching. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to take this pumpkin apart. This is the stand-up one from Dollar Tree, and I'm actually going to be doing 2 of these, but the same steps apply for both of them. So if you see the shape of it kind of changes a little bit, it's just because I'm interchanging them in between scenes. But I'm going to take this one apart and I'm just pulling off the burlap that comes with it. And I'm actually going to break that away and just pull this off. Oh, that one had a lot of glitter. The other one didn't have as much glitter on it. but I wanted to do it in 2 sizes. Next, I'm going to take this piece of poster board that has been pre-cut. It's about 7.5 inches by 11 inches. You really don't need that much height on it. And what I'm going to do is, there's a little lip that goes down into the groove of this. I'm not going to trace that out. So you just kind of want to have it so it hangs off the edge of the foam board a little bit here. And then you're just going to go ahead and trace that out. All right. So the next thing that needs to happen is this needs to be cut out. And I have my blade here, and you want to make sure that you have a new sharp blade on this. Doesn't necessarily have to be like brand new, but it does need to be super sharp to get a smooth cut through this foam board. And I find that if you cut outside of the line, it's okay for this one, because you can always shape it back up. But if you cut too far into the line, then you'll wind up having to recut it or paint it a similar color of what you're going to paint your pumpkin. Nice. Okay, so there we have our pumpkin. I'm just going to set this piece aside. And then I have a block here just to lift it off of the table some. You don't necessarily have to do this. I just find it a little bit easier for you to be able to see it on camera, because typically I would come off the edge of the table, but my camera doesn't reach the edge of the table for you to see what I'm doing, so I have to kind of emulate that. So I'm going to take this smaller blade, if I can open it. There we go. And I'm just going to extend it a little bit, and I'm going to bring my knife here at an angle, and then I'm just going to start shaving it off. Now, I have done this technique in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that, I will go ahead and link it for you. If you'd like to see it, I'll also make sure it's at the end of the video so that you can click it there. But I did another style like this prior. So again, you want a really sharp blade, and here you just want to make sure that the blade is doing the work. Don't force the blade, otherwise you'll end up doing more work than you necessarily need to. So I'm just going to continue to go around like this and basically cut it down at an angle. And then if you want it, you know, a little bit more, you can always come back through. You just want to make sure you don't cut through to the other side of the paper, but get it as thin as you would like on the edges without cutting through that other layer of paper. Okay, so I'm going to finish this off camera, since you know what I'm doing, and when I'm ready for the next step, I'll be back. Okay, so I've gotten this piece completed, and you can see here that I've gone around all of the edges. Now if you have some really jaggedy points, you can go over this with a fine grit paper and get that off. So the next piece I have here is 3 by 6, and this is going to be the middle section of the pumpkin. And all I'm going to do is just curve this off like it's an oval, and then cut it out and do the same thing. Thin it out on the edges like it's a carved piece of wood. Now I'm just going to check this for fit. Make sure that I like how it's going to go. Okay. And I'm just going to adjust it a little bit here. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with the way that this looks. So let me go ahead and get ready to start gluing this down. Give you just a moment. Okay, so now what I need to do is to go ahead and glue the pieces together. So I'm going to end up gluing this on top of here first. And you just want to make sure that you don't go over that little lip that we created in the first place, and just try to line everything up. Okay, so we want that to be able to go back into the stand and stand up like this. All right, so the next step we're going to do is we're going to add the middle section in. Get this lined up where I want it. And stick it down. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is just kind of turn it over and see if you have any edges, like you can see here or here, don't quite match up. And you just want to come in with your blade and just kind of even those edges up. And also, if you'd like, you could do the same thing on the back as far as adding the poster board like how we did on the front. And then you can have yourself a two-sided project. All right, so this is what we have so far. Let me get this cleaned up and get ready for the next step. Okay, so next what I have here are the two stands. And what I did was I mixed up some moss Waverly chalk paint and this campground Craft Smart paint together, and made this darker green color, and I also put a drop of black in there. I'm hoping this will dry darker than what it is, and the reason why I mixed them together was because I really like chalk paint, and it seems to stick better than acrylic paint on a lot of projects. So if I don't prime with the chalk paint, then I usually try to mix chalk paint with acrylic paint. Anyway, what I'm going to do is paint this up, or paint them both up, and then let them dry, and then we're going to come back through and do some distressing on them, like the inspiration piece. Okay, so next I'm going to come in with the ivory chalk paint and do some dry brushing over the stands here. And so I'm just going to get some paint onto the brush, and then I'm going to dab it off. dab it off onto my surface here. So I'm just gonna do a little bit. I don't need like a whole lot on there. And also just to let you know, I did end up doing 2 coats of the green paint on this, and I also did the bottom side. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's just personal preference. So you can go in and distress this as little or as much as you want to. I know I said I was going to do just a little bit, and it's coming out to be more than that, but I'm going to stop right there. And I'm just going to do the same thing with this one. Just come on the edges here where you would see a lot more of the distressing than not, typically. And then we're going to set these aside to dry. All right, so that's that. So while I have the ivory paint out still, I'm going to go ahead and paint the pumpkins, but I wanted, or paint one of the pumpkins, but I wanted you to see the size difference in between 2 of them. This is the one that I've been working on camera, and this is the one that I've been working on off of camera. And so I'm going to paint this one the ivory color, and then this one's going to end up being the orange color. In the last video I painted the orange color on screen, so I decided to paint the ivory color this time on screen. So what I'm going to do is do layers of paint on this. That is key when working with the foam core, so that you do not get any bubbling of the paper. So you just want to come in with thin layers of paint and paint your pumpkin, essentially. I don't know what else I was trying to say. I apologize, but yes, you just want to come in with thin layers of paint rather than one big amount of paint. Okay, so I've gotten the ivory on here as much coverage as I want. So next, what I'm going to do is come back in with the green color that I mixed up for the base, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing and dry brush the color on. And I'm using initially, I don't remember if I told you, but I used a chip brush, and this is almost like another chip brush type situation. Like, it's got the raggedy bristles like how the chip brush has. I don't know how else to describe it. I apologize, but yeah, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and place this color on here, and I'm just going to do the thin layers over itself until I have the coverage that I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm pretty satisfied with the coverage of the green at this point. So I'm going to let this completely dry because I can still feel a little bit of moisture with the ivory portion, and then we're going to come back and distress it. Okay, so I'll be right back. So the pumpkin has had time to dry, so next what I'm going to do is to age it a little bit. And so first I'm going to start with the ivory on the stem. So I'm just going to take the side of my brush here and just dab a little bit on there. And just come along right on the edge where the paper meets the foam. And just rub that right in there. Okay, just like that. Alright, and next I'm going to come back in with this brush that looks like a chip brush. And I'm going to go into the antique wax this time. The Waverly antique wax. And this one is like at the very bottom of the barrel, but I can use it here to do some dry brushing. So I'm going to get some on the brush and then take it off. And then I'm just going to start coming up in a sweeping motion. And just barely get any on there. And I'm just going to build up the color until I'm satisfied with the way that it looks. Okay, and I'm pretty satisfied with the way that this looks. And then I just wanted to show you, I did go ahead and do the orange one off camera. With this one, I did the antique wax and the ivory and did the same dry brush, went around in the crevice here on the sides, and then with the ivory on the side of the brush, I highlighted where the paper meets the foam, where we carved that out, and then the ivory on top. All right, so I'm going to set up for the next step. For the next step, what I need to do is to complete these leaves. So they started out as these maple leaves that you can get in the bag from Dollar Tree. They come in a bag that looks like this. And I needed them to look like bronze metal. So initially what I did was I started just painting them with this chocolate brown metallic by Folk Art. But that didn't go too well. You could still see the background colors to them. So what I did was I went ahead and painted it with the truffle Waverly paint first, and then I came back in with the chocolate brown over it. And then once I did that, I came in with the burnt umber and painted in the veins. So this is what the leaf is looking like. This is what it looks like without the veins. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish doing the veins here. And I just took a fine brush, and I'm just going to work out of the cap since we don't need that much paint. Excuse me. And what I'm going to do is start at the bottom and just lightly bring my brush up and kind of bring it to a point at the end. Then I'm going to come from the center and out. Center and out, and I'm just following the little indents that are already on the leaf. Okay, and there's that. So that'll, excuse me, I'm so sorry. So that'll dry down a little bit lighter to look closer to how this one looks. So it looks kind of like a shadow. Now if you just have a bronze paint, you can most certainly just paint them bronze. Unfortunately I didn't have, so I had to make something up, but I think this is a pretty good match for the inspiration piece. All right, so I'm going to set this aside and let it dry, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to come back to the orange pumpkin, and what I'm going to do is use this stencil here that came from the Crafter's Score section for Dollar Tree, and I'm actually going to use this for the lettering on the pumpkin. I was going to use the wooden letters, but for the size of these pumpkins, they're way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and use these stencils instead. Next thing I'm going to do is come in with the Ivory Waverly chalk paint again. And I'm just going to fill this in. Okay, so the fall pumpkin is, well, the fall portion of it, I'm done painting it. So that's what it looks like. I did do a couple of coats over, and then what I did was I came back around with this flat brush here, and wherever I went over, I just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but you know, I could drive myself crazy all night trying to fix it. So for the other pumpkin, I decided to go ahead and just do hello, because honestly, I wasn't into the concept of having two pumpkins that say fall. I mean, I guess if you're putting them in two different places, but yeah, I imagine that I'll be displaying them together. If not, this one still could be hello pumpkin, and this is just a fall pumpkin. So the next thing that we are going to do is work with, I think I'm gonna work with the leaves. They're done drying, so we have a big one and a small one for each pumpkin. So what I'm gonna do is I have some floral wire here that I pre-cut, and they're about 20 inches a piece. I don't know that I'll need that much, but we're just gonna start there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and move this one to the side and work predominantly on this fall one. I'm gonna take this wire and just wrap it around. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bigger leaf, and I'm just going to decide where I'm going to glue it on the wire. Okay, so I'm feeling like right about there is good. So I'm going to wonder if I should fold it down. No. I'm going to go ahead and just cut it. About 3/4 of the way up the leaf. Excuse me. And I'm going to come back around with my hot glue, and I'm just going to put some here on the wire and then fold that leaf back up into the glue. and just center it as much as possible. It doesn't need to be perfect necessarily. We're going to let that cool down. And then I'm just going to come and encase it on the lower part. Make my life a little bit easier here. Okay. So we'll let that cool down a little bit. And just bend it down. And then we're going to do the same thing with the smaller leaf on this side. The second to last thing to add to this is the bow, and you'd be so proud. Look at this. I was able to tie a bow with the raffia, and it's a little long right now. I'm going to cut it down once I get it attached. And I used the trick that one of you viewers suggested to me to wet it down first. So I did do that, so it gave me a little bit of an easier time, although admittedly I did have a hard time tying the bow. I don't know what it is about that, but I guess my baby is going to be wearing Velcro shoes for the rest of his life. I hope not. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and attach the bow. Right here to the top. And we'll let that simmer down a little bit. And then I'm going to take the end of this, and decide where I'm going to cut it. And I think I'm going to cut it right about here. So here. Okay. I'm going to keep that to the side. And I just discovered this the other day, but did you know you can split raffia? So many of you probably already knew that, and I just discovered it literally, I think 2 days ago. Yes, 2 days ago, that you can take raffia and split it up. So it looks like there's more than you actually. These were actually 6 strands that I went ahead and tied together. So now that the leaves are cool, I'm going to go ahead and swing them around so they kind of look like something. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Then we have our base, and you can glue the base back on to this. But if you do plan on doing something to the back, you may want to just kind of set it in there, or just do, you don't have to do like this whole production of glue, just a couple of little dabs so that you can get it off again if you decide you want to do something to the back but you want to display it now. So here's what that's looking like so far. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the other one, and I don't know, let me take a step back for a second. For the hello, I did go ahead and find a free printable online, and I just printed it off and it just so happened to come out the exact size that I needed. So that's how I got the font for hello. But again, you can use stencil, you can use stickers. If you have a vinyl cutting machine, then that's perfect too. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one finished, and I will be back with final pictures. I love how these pumpkins turned out, and I used about $3 in materials, not including paint. What do you think? Did I nail it or fail it? Let me know in the comments below. Super excited to show you how I duped this wooden pumpkin with metal leaves with foam core and a cookie sheet. If you're ready to see how, just keep watching. To begin this DIY, I have 3 pieces of foam core cut here, and they are roughly 8 by 9 inches across. And I have 3 pieces here, and a ruler, and a pencil, and an eraser if you need it. And I'm going to make a pumpkin shape out of this square. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark it down the center. Now, if you don't feel confident, or you just don't feel like drawing this out yourself, you can most certainly go online and look up a free printable or an image that you can use of a shape of a pumpkin that you like, and do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to go down the middle here, and I'm going to make this the top. And so next, what I'm going to do is just do some little markings here to decide how long I want my stem to be. And I'm going to make it about 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to put a mark here at 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to go down about another inch on that center line and draw another portion here for where the stem actually meets the pumpkin part. And next, I'm going to make the stem to come down about 1 inch wide. But what I want to do excuse me, is from the center point, I'm going to mark out 1/4 inch from one side, and then make it 3/4 of an inch on the other side. I hope that's making sense. And then what I'm going to do is do the opposite down at the bottom here, just so it kind of gives me a guideline. A guideline to make it kind of a curve. Okay, so from here, this is the extension portion, and that's looking a little big to me, so I'm going to reduce that to 3/4 of an inch. Is that 3/4 of an inch? There's 3/4 of an inch. Okay. So now I'm going to make that about 2 inches wide. So I'm marking 1 inch out from the center. And this isn't anything that's hard and fast. This is certainly, you know, you do it how you would like your pumpkin to look. So let's see how much we have left here. And we have a little over 6 inches. Actually 6 3/4. So what I'm gonna do is now come down I'm gonna come down to about the 3.5 inch mark here, and then from the center I'm gonna try to make this as wide as I can get it. And then I'm gonna come back to the bottom here, and let's make this 3 inches. 1.5 and 1.5. Okay, so now all I'm gonna do is come around and start making some drawings here. Some lines here to, sorry, I'm going to start making some lines here to kind of carve out my pumpkin. And again, see, these aren't hard and fast, so I'm feeling like I want to make this a little bit wider, so I'm going to make it a little bit wider. Okay. Then I'm just going to come over it and kind of round this out. So there we have our pumpkin shape. Just clean that up a little bit. And I'm just gonna do that. Okay, so next what you want to do is cut out your pumpkin shape. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do that. And I'm just going to take my blade here. You want to make sure that you have a new sharp blade on your cutting apparatus, whatever it is you're going to use, and just start cutting. You just want to be mindful of where your other hand is, that it's away from the blade. And then you just come in and cut. And there you have it. So next you want to go ahead and cut out 3 more that are the same size as this one. So I'm just going to show you quickly how I'm just going to trace around it and then go ahead and cut it. I've gotten my 3 pieces cut here, and now I'm going to set 2 off to the side, and I have another piece of leftover foam board. And what I'm going to do is just come to right about here and trace the pumpkin again. Right about there. And this is going to give me kind of the shape of the segments that we need for the next to layer onto this. So what I'm going to do is basically just make some crescent shapes in here and use them in the pumpkin. So I'm going to just come up kind of like this and like this, and I think we're gonna make this right about there. So I'm just placing a mark where I want to meet, kind of in the center. And just do that. I'm going to do the same here, and these don't have to be perfect or even. I'm just going to do that like this. And then for the centerpiece, we're just going to come down here to the bottom like this and just kind of make our center segment. Okay, and we're going to cut this out, and then you want to cut 2 of each of, so times 2 of each piece. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get this cut out and get the other pieces cut out as well. All right, so now that all of my pieces have been cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing them together. So I have my hot glue gun here, and what I'm going to do is glue these. I'm going to take this one and glue it on top of this one, and so on and so forth. So next we're going to do these pieces separately and keep them apart from the larger pumpkin for now. And just as a quick final note, I did label these, so left and right with the up arrow, so that I don't get mixed up. And looks like I forgot to do that one, so I want to make sure that I know once I get done with the next step what direction these all need to go in. Okay, so this is what we should have right here so far. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to do carving. And I got the idea to do this particular project from Carrie. If you haven't seen her pumpkin shaped wagon that she did for a dupe for Kirklands, I will put a link to that in the description box, and you'll want to check that out because it came out fantastic. But it did give me the idea to be able to do these Kirkland pumpkins that we're doing now. So what you're gonna want is a very sharp blade. Now you want to make sure that it's sharp. If not, you'll end up doing more work than what you actually need to. Also, when you're doing this, you want to let the blade do the work. Don't try to force it. Just let it slice off the top paper and some of the foam. Otherwise, you'll end up, again, doing more work than is necessary to complete this. When you let the blade do the work, it doesn't come out as jaggedy as, or if it's sharp, as if it was dull and you were forcing the blade to cut through the foam. Okay, so what you want to do is kind of just even up the foam a little bit on the edges. Just come through and kind of make sure that where they meet is kind of smooth, like you can see here. If I can get the angle good, that one is a little bit wider than the other. I'm just shaving that down a little bit so it's a little bit more even on even on both sides. So then once you get that pretty even, then you want to come in and start doing your carving. So you want to hold your blade at an angle and just like you're peeling an apple, you just want to take off slices like you're slicing the skin of an apple. And you can go in either direction, whatever you're most comfortable with, away from you, towards you. But again, you just want to make sure that you're letting the blade do the work, because otherwise if you start forcing it, which is what I did the first round, because I also did another pumpkin, or more of a gourd shaped, I was just forcing it to go through and getting in a hurry to get it done, instead of just taking my time. And then I ended up having to do more sanding than I necessarily needed to. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this one up here so that you can kind of see how the process goes. And you just want to shape it down, take off as much or as little as you want to, as long as it's, see here, this is what I'm talking about. I was forcing the blade a little bit, so it left all of these little jaggedies that don't necessarily need to be there. Now, once you get it down to your desired shape, at this point you can go in and add some extra little divots in here, because you do want it to look like it is carved wood, like the inspiration. So you can go in and take out little extra bits. If you don't want to do that, if you just like the smooth look, you don't necessarily have to do that. But since we're doing a dupe, we want to try to make it look as close to the original as possible. Alright, so I'm pretty satisfied with the way that this looks. And I did go ahead and do the other pieces off camera. Let me just move this off to the side, because next what needs to happen is we need to just kind of sand down the stuff that's just a little bit rough. And I'm just using the Dollar Tree sanding block on this one is a medium and fine one. I'm using the fine side of it, and I'm just going in and knocking down some of the parts that are extra rough on here. And so you can do as much or as little sanding as you want, just so long as it, you know, kind of looks natural, like it was a naturally carved wood and not a piece of foam core that's trying to look like wood. So all of the pieces have been sanded down. Next, what I'm going to do is go ahead and glue them into place, and I just want to double check that they're going to be glued to the right place. And so I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start with the center piece here. Alright, so I'm going to let this glue set up a little bit, and I'll be back with our next step. So next we're going to work on some painting here, And first I'm gonna start with this hazelnut from Waverly chalk paint. And I'm gonna work on the stem. Now what I'm gonna do is just first draw a little line across here so I kind of know where to stop. And I'm gonna go ahead and paint this. Now, the secret that I learned to painting foam core is to make sure that you do thin coats. So I'm going to go ahead and do some thin coats of this color on the foam. Just being careful not to oversaturate it, because that's when you have the paper peeling away from the actual foam, and we don't want that here. So I'm going to try to keep this as thin as possible. And you'll notice when I start to get to the back that I did start painting the back already. And I don't know what I was thinking about, but I painted the orange all the way up to the top. Now, the reason why I even did that was because I haven't used this orange color since last fall, so I wanted to kind of just check on it, and it was kind of thick, and I thought, oh, that maybe might work to my advantage, but it didn't. So I did end up having to come in and water that down a little bit. So that's the reason why the paint is on the back. So next I'm going to come in with the pumpkin through Waverly. And I'm actually going to, since this is a larger area, I'm going to pour some into this container here. I'm also going to grab this larger brush, and I just, because I don't know where my painting mat is right now, I'm gonna go ahead and use this so I don't mess up my, actually, let me just take it out. Alright, so now I'm gonna come in and do the same thing, just doing thin layers on this piece, and I'm gonna paint the whole thing orange. Okay, so I've painted the pumpkin orange, and I just wanted to go over something with you really quick. I had to abandon the bigger brush that I was using because I needed to get the paint up underneath inside of these creases here. So I wound up switching to this brush so that I could do that. A suggestion I might make is to lightly paint before you glue. I don't know, I prefer to glue before I paint, but sometimes that's not always possible, and I should have realized that before I did this. So just a word, if you don't want to have to do all the extra work to get up inside of these crevices, go ahead and paint at least the base pumpkin first, then glue your pieces, and then you can paint these pieces once they're glued on. Just a suggestion. So next we're going to come in with this moss green from Waverly and dry brush some of this in there. Now when I was painting the pumpkin, I was trying to mimic how the picture for the original piece was, and I was going side to side. Now it appears that the green is actually going up and down. So I'm gonna come in with a dry brush and attempt to get that same look. Okay, so I'm satisfied with the way that this looks. So I'm gonna let this dry a little bit, and then I'll come back with the final color. Okay, so the next color that we're gonna do is the Ivory in Waverly chalk paint. And what I'm gonna do is take a little bit on this flat brush here. I don't know if you can make that out that it's flat, but it's a flat brush. And I'm gonna take a little bit of paint on it from the lid. And I'm just gonna come up right along these edges here. And kind of give them a little dusting of color. So right along the edges where you still have some paper, you could go on to the foam a little bit, but right where you have the paper, so it gives that illusion again that it's carved, and it also gives it some aging. Some spots you can go a little bit heavier so it's more realistic looking, and some spots keep it a little bit lighter. Alright, so that's what we have so far. I don't know if you can see that well. This lighting is pretty bad in here, I apologize. So this stem is a little bit dark for me, so I think what I'm gonna do is, instead of doing the highlight, I'm just gonna come in and dry brush over this entire thing, just to kind of take down some of the color. And it's actually giving me the highlights anyway, so it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm not really too concerned about doing the back of this pumpkin because it's going to be on a wall. Now, unfortunately, this isn't a freestanding pumpkin, so we will have to add a stand to it. I'm going to be using one of the tower blocks from Dollar General, just because I don't have any of the tumbling tower blocks from Dollar Tree at this time, but you can most certainly use those. Another option is, I was thinking about this when I was making it. The reason why I did it the size that I did it was because I wanted you to be able to do this with just one piece of, talking and messing it up, with just one piece of foam board for each pumpkin. Now, if you want it to be freestanding, you can most certainly wipe some of this color off. You can most certainly go ahead and cut 4 of these larger outer pieces, and I think that would give you enough of a base for it to stand alone. Also, if you wanted to make it double-sided, say you wanted to put it in the middle of a table or something, you could do the same thing on this side with these extra pieces, the segments, and do them on the back. And then that way you would have this freestanding, because it would then balance itself, because it wants to tip forward because it's kind of front heavy. So now I'm just gonna put this away or put this to the side and let it completely dry and get set up to make the leaves. So I'll be right back. For the leaves, I'm going to be using the cookie tin, some leftover pieces that I had from a previous project. If you missed that project, I'll go ahead and link it up above. Also, I'll link it at the end of the video. Now, end of this video, excuse me. Now, what I'm going to use as a template is one of these maple leaves from this bag of maple leaves from Dollar Tree. And before I do that, you do have options as to what else you can use. If you don't plan on using the leaf on this Thankful and Blessed, you can poach it off of there or off of the truck. You also have the option, if you have those little ceramic pumpkins that have the leaves and the tendrils on them, if you have enough of those, you can take them off of there. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing with those leaves just yet, so I don't want to use them, so we're going to make some. So taking a piece of cookie tin, you just want to trace your leaf out, and I just did around the leaf. I tried not to touch it with the marker just because I'm cheap and I may want to use it. So we did that, and then you cut it out. So you can see I cut it out so it is significantly smaller than what I traced it out at. I cut it inside so you wouldn't see the Sharpie marks anywhere. Okay, so next we're going to take a piece of foam board, and you'll notice when you cut it, the metal kind of curves in a certain direction. It's not like a big curve, but it is a noticeable curve that you can use to your advantage. So now I'm going to take the stylus, and whichever way it's curving, I'm going to turn it the opposite way. If you can't tell, then it doesn't really matter, but it just helps with the process of what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take this stylus and lay the foil down, the cookie sheet down on it, and I'm just going to take the smaller end of the stylus. And if you don't have a stylus, you could actually use like the end of a pencil, a mechanical pencil. If you have a small paintbrush, you can use the small end of a paintbrush. I'm even looking at this. I lost the flower off of it, but you could use the end of this floral wire that was attached to a flower to do that. But since I have the proper tool, thank you to everyone who helped me with, who said, if I remember, I do read the comments. I'm getting distracted. I do read the comments. I'm just terrible at responding a lot of times, and I apologize for that. I'll try to do better. But anyway, I'm taking the smaller end and I'm just going to draw in the veining of the leaf on here. And so what I learned is this is either called a stylus or an embossing tool. So I'm guessing I'm embossing with a stylus right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the veining. Sorry. I don't know why I'm such a comedian. I cracked myself up. So I'm putting in the veining, like how it looks on the leaf that we used as a template. And I'm just gonna roughly put them in. They don't have to be perfect. And if you don't want to do that step, I did give you the alternative of using the metal flowers. You could also just use this leaf. But since I am attempting to dupe the pumpkin, then I need to go this route here. So we're going to continue doing the veining. Okay, so we have the dimension in this direction. Now we're going to take the bigger end, so you would want to find a bigger tool. And if you don't have this, and then you're just going to come along the edge here, just real close to the edge, like a second away from the edge, and just go around. So remember, we flipped it over, so now it's going to be curving the edges over to just give it some more dimension. Okay, so you're just going to go around the leaf. And you're going to flip it back over to the smaller side and go around one more time inside of the track that you sort of made going around the first time. And then you can just take it in gently. You don't have to do anything big, you could just gently push it over just a little bit more, just to give it just a little bit more definition. So there we have our leaf. Let's get some of that shine off of it. But there you go. So I've already made the other ones to go on the pumpkin. So we'll get ready to get that attached. Get them attached. So it'll be just a moment. Before we attach the leaves, I just wanted to mention that I went ahead and added a stand on the back. This is one of the jumbo tower blocks that can be found at Dollar General, and painted it the pumpkin color and then attached it with hot glue. If you don't have those and you have the Dollar Tree ones, which unfortunately again I don't have, you can use the Dollar Tree tumbling tower blocks. Okay, so of course you can't see it because it's from the top down, but this is what it looks like standing, at least from the top down. So now we're going to go ahead and attach the leaves, and get our 3 here. And what I'm going to do is use this quick grip glue to get them on there, and it's a permanent adhesive. And I'm just gonna decide where I want the placement of this to be. and then go ahead and get it attached. So I'm gonna just lift up this leaf here, put a little hot glue down on the pumpkin, should have used my detail gun for this part. And you just want to be careful because that's gonna be pretty warm. So this is what we have so far. Okay. So now for the last step, the leaves were actually attached with wire, and then they had kind of twirls of tendrils on them. I didn't have a wire that was fine enough, and I was actually going to use this wired twine from Dollar Tree, but when I took it out of the package, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, it started unraveling. So I went ahead and decided just to go ahead and use the wire, like the inspiration piece. And so they have theirs kind of twirled up. So I'm going to take these jewelry pliers here. And if you have a thinner wire, or I don't know, maybe it's just my hands, but I couldn't kind of wrap it around the pen. It just kept sliding and I couldn't get a good grip on it. But you could certainly wrap it around the pen and just kind of squeeze the spring down to get this spiral look that I'm doing. If you have a wire that's not as strong as this one. So I'm just going to take these pliers and kind of do like a little spiral. I'm going to take and just bend this wire back. Okay, so we have something that looks like this. All right, so I'm just gonna actually stick this down into the foam, and you want to kind of go down as not to pierce through the back. I'm just gonna go down, 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 as my son says. Down, down, down. Oh, and you just got to be careful because I just separated the paper. Wow. Okay, let's fix that and be a little bit more gentle, shall we? Okay, so I just want to be a little bit more gentle. The paper actually peeled off from the foam when I was putting pressure on it. So just be careful with that. But it was an easy fix, just glue it back down. And then I have a couple more that I made, and I'm just gonna come right here, stick one down here, and I think I'm just gonna take this last one and put that one pumpkins. Okay, that's dry enough. I'm gonna stick this one right about in here. And I'm gonna lift it up from the table so I don't... I'm sorry guys, my hands just really aren't cooperating with me today. I'm gonna use this piercing tool to help me get the hole started. And then I'm gonna just work that right in. Now if you want to, you can go ahead and take a little glue, pull this back out, take a little glue and put the glue on the end of it and then stick it back down in there so that it's a little bit more permanent than what it is. But here's what this looks like, and we're all done. And stay tuned for final pictures because I also have another one that I made that I mentioned earlier that is more of a gourd shape. So you'll see that one there in the pictures. I think these pumpkins came out absolutely adorable. Let me know what you think about them in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for watching. I decided to go simple this week, and I'm going to show you how I made this gorgeous door hanger that is very customizable. Alright, let's get to it! I have this wooden hanging box that I got from Hobby Lobby a few months back, and I'm going to be using it for today's project. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, here is the label. And I think this is something they keep in the store pretty regularly. Don't quote me on that. But yes. So to begin, what I'm going to do is take this Waverly Antique Wax, and I'm going to use the baby wipe method to apply this because I don't want it a fully dark color. I just want the lighter version of it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the whole thing. And also I did sand this before I got started. So again, I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing, front, top. I'm going to get as far down into the inside as I can. And when I'm done, I will be back and show you the finished results. I finished doing the antique wax on this box, and I ended up going a little bit darker than I had actually intended. So what I'm gonna do next is go ahead and add some of this cerusing wax, and this is through a maker studio. It's called Farmhouse cerusing wax, and it's a white colored wax that I'm going to buff all into this into a circular motion. And then I'm gonna wait 30 minutes and come back in with another clean cloth and buff it out. So this is gonna bring the color down for the brown. It's also gonna give it a nice aged look, which we all like for the farmhouse. And if you are interested in purchasing this wax, it will be linked in, or it is linked in the description box below. And you just take some squirts of this out of the bottle, and then you rub it in a circular motion, You don't want to leave any excess. You want to make sure that you're rubbing it all in and you don't see any excess to it, but you want to make sure it goes down into the grain of the wood so that when you excuse me, so that when you come back and buff it out, you'll see the actual wax that has built up in the crevices of the wood. So I'm going to keep doing this here, and I'm going to do just the front and the bottom of this. Even though I finished the back, I'm only going to do the front and the bottom of this, since this will be against either a wall or a door. Now the thing that I do like a lot about this particular basket is that you are not locked into hanging it, I guess is the word that I want to use. You're not locked into hanging it. It can also be stood up like that. And when I purchased this, there was only one in the store, but I think this would look great in a pair. Also, I think with this style of standing it up, you could put two back to back for like a table type situation. I think that would look amazing. So again, I'm actually almost done with this section. Then what I'm going to do is let it dry for 30 minutes. Then I'm going to come back and buff it out and see what the end results are. Alright, so it's been about 30 minutes since I've put this cerusing wax on. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and buff this out, and let's see what it's going to look like. So you just want to buff it again, kind of like how you were putting it on. And you'll be able to see the wood coming back in, or the wood grain. And you'll also see in like some of the crevices and things where the extra cerusing wax kind of settled in. Okay, so if I bring you up close, you can kind of see where the wax settled into some of the crevices. And this also, since it is a wax, it'll serve as protection against some of the elements outside. I wouldn't put it in like an area that's not covered, but yeah, the wax kind of gives it a seal. So this is what we have so far. So I'm going to get set up for the next portion, and I'll be right back. The next step I'm going to do is go ahead and add this Dollar Tree lace ribbon around the top of this basket here. I'm not really feeling how it looks after I did the antique wax. It looks kind of dirty, so instead of taking the time to try to paint it down, I'm just going to add this ribbon to it. So I'm just going to tack it a little bit here in the back. So this is what we have so far. So the next thing I'm going to do is work on getting the florals in here. And I have a piece of packing styrofoam that I'm going to use to stick inside. So I'm just going to stick that inside. And the next thing that I'm gonna do is I have some Excelsior grass here from Dollar Tree, and I've already obviously pulled it out because it is quite noisy. So I'm just gonna stick a little bit of that in here. Next thing I have is all of these florals. Now I know this looks a little bit ridiculous, but I am going to be cutting them down, so I won't be using all of them. But all of these florals are from Dollar Tree, and they have been available for the fall. So I'm just gonna cut off probably 2 or 3 pieces from each one to begin with, and see if that's good enough. So I'm going to cut them the longest I can cut them, and then if I need to trim anything down, then I'll do that. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of all of this, and I'll be right back. Alright, so this is what we have so far. I've cut everything down, and it's looking like Thanksgiving dinner. Just get a little bit of everything. So what I'm gonna do is just start poking them in there, and then trying to arrange it to look like something. Now, I'm by no means an expert on floral arranging, but all I'm gonna do is just start sticking stuff in here and keep going until I'm satisfied with the way that it looks. So I'm gonna stick the wheats in the back, since they're kind of the tallest. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And then next I'm gonna put in these leaves. These oak leaves here. After inserting the oak leaves, I just arranged the other florals as randomly as possible, so the different colors could be mixed into the arrangement. So this is what we have so far, and I also have some of these pit berries that I'm going to stick in here. And I think we're just going to do 3 pieces of this. Going to go ahead and let's see, wrap this around a marker. And I'm just gonna stick these into the styrofoam. I'm gonna let them kind of hang down a little bit and see how I like that. Okay. And I'm thinking, well, I thought I was gonna add a bow, but I don't think I'm gonna add, I think the bow would just be too much with everything I have going on here. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I have this W from the alphabet, from the wooden letters from Dollar Tree, and I painted it with this Craft Smart navy blue. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and stick this to the front. I was gonna add a bow and this on there, but I think that's too much. So me thinking that's too much. But yeah, I think that's too much. So I'm just gonna add this W on here, and you guys let me know what you think. Would you add the W? Would you add the bow as well, or do you think just the W is enough? So I'm gonna go ahead and get some hot glue on here. I'm gonna center that up and stick it down. And this was just a quick and easy one for you guys. You know, I don't think this is sticking to the wax. So I'm gonna go ahead and adhere it with some stronger adhesive. And I'll be back with the final results. Stay tuned. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button and leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, subscribe and choose all notifications so you don't miss my next video. I'm excited to show you how I made this rustic farmhouse sign from some inexpensive items. If you'd like to see how, just keep watching. To begin this DIY, I have an 8x10 Crafter Square stretched canvas that I have taken the canvas off, and I have pried the staples out of the back. Also, I have some of these quart paint sticks, comes 32 a pack from Home Depot, and you get 30 for 98 cents. I chose these because I want to use them on the back of this frame, and the ones from Dollar Tree just aren't long enough to fit on there. So canvas is from Dollar Tree and the sticks are from Home Depot. So what I'm gonna do is take this hazelnut Waverly chalk paint and Waverly chalk paint, and I'm gonna paint the inside and the sides of the frame, and then I'm gonna paint the sticks as well. And once I'm done, I will set those to the side to dry. Next, I have this pumpkin printout, and this is the one that I used last week. I'll link it down in the description box below. And if you happen to miss that video, I'll also link that as well. But I'm going to use it again, obviously, and it's going to be similar steps as to what we did. So what I want to do is trace out the entire pumpkin one time, and then I'm going to come around again and trace out the pumpkin, just the center portion here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and then next what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so this is what we have so far. And what I'm gonna do, just like last time, is go ahead and mark this with an arrow so I know that this way is going to be pointing up. Okay, so I am going to move this to the side and then get out the other piece that we'll be working on next. Next, what I did is I cut all of the excess paper from around the pumpkin, and I'm going to trace this, trace it onto this cookie sheet. They come in a pack of 2 from Dollar Tree, and we're just using 1 right now. And I'm going to trace the entire pumpkin onto the sheet. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And then next, I jumped the gun and cut it apart before I really needed to. So the next what I'm going to do is take out this middle section and do the same thing like we did with the poster board. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is cut these out, and when I get them cut out I will be right back. Now that the cookie sheet pieces have been cut out, the next thing I'm going to do is stick them down onto the pumpkin, and I'm going to be using this quick grip glue that I have, and I marked this one also so I wouldn't get mixed up, and I'm just going to stick them down onto their respective pieces here. And then once I do that, I'm going to set it to the side to let this glue set up. Okay, so what I've done next is I have started the galvanizing process of the pumpkin, and what I did on both pieces is I went around the edges with the elephant chalk paint, and next I'm going to go over it with so elephant, silver lining, this gunmetal gray, and this silver. Okay, and I'm going to use a makeup sponge, and I just have the colors here on the scrap piece of the metal. And so I'm just going to go over, just pouncing up and down in a random motion, and just go over all of the colors. So this is basically a matter of taste as far as how much of each paint you use, and how much of each paint you use, excuse me. I did want to start with the chalk paint though, just because I feel like maybe the acrylic paint might not stick too well to the metal portion. So again, you just want to kind of move the sponge around, and I'm going to be sure to come around and get your edges as well. And you can do as much as the color of one color or as little as one color as you prefer. So this is the silver lining that I've placed. Now I'm coming over to the gunmetal gray. And again, you just want to get the edges and be random about it. And I've already done the larger pumpkin portion just for time purposes on the video. Okay, and then the last color here is the silver. Okay, and with this one, you'll notice that I left a spot open here. I didn't feel it was necessary to completely cover the middle because this will be glued on top. So I'm gonna set these aside to dry and clean up the area a little bit. Okay, so our frame and sticks have dried. And when I was kind of looking at it here, kind of wasn't feeling how it looked. I just don't like it the way it is right now. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and use some of this ivory chalk paint and just kind of dry brush over these craft sticks here. See if that'll help me feel a little bit better about it. Now I do have a chip brush, and I'm just gonna come out of the lid here, and I'm just gonna lightly add a different this color to it here, just to see if I can feel better about it. So, whoops. I'm just gonna dry brush some color on. I'm gonna feel a little bit better about this. I am gonna move this one. Just to kind of mix up some of these ones that got a little bit too dark or too light. Another option is you could go back over with the base color, which was hazelnut Waverly chalk paint. So let me put this over here, and I'm liking this a lot better. So that's good to go, and I'm just gonna let these dry up a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue them to the back of the frame. Okay, so I've gotten the frame put together, all the sticks glued down here, and so I'm going to set that to the side. And the next thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of dimension on this pumpkin by coming through with this tool here that I got from Dollar Tree. It's got a little ball on the tip. Not exactly sure. I don't think I know what it's for, but I'm just going to come in here and kind of press on this metal and foam core a little bit and see if I can't get just some of these imprints that were on the original pumpkin, just to give it a little bit of dimension. Nothing major, but I just wanted to see if I could give it a little extra something. And it seems to have worked. I don't know if you can necessarily see it on camera, but it is there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side. You can most certainly skip this step. But you know I'm extra, so I do extra things. So So I just did some little dash marks on there. Oops, I probably don't want to do that though, because I'm scratching off the paint. So I'm liking that. Next, what I'm going to do is come in with this burnt umber from Apple Barrel. And I just have a little bit squeezed out on a scrap piece of paper here. And I'm going to come along the edges and give it a little bit of the rest. So again, this is one of those you could do as little or as much as you would like. And then what I'll do after this portion is dry is go ahead and seal it with the Aleene's spray acrylic sealer. I'm loving how that looks. And then you can also, you know, do a little extra rusts all over. And I think what I'm gonna do, or not think, but get a little paintbrush here. Let's get this one. And I'm gonna come in and kind of highlight where those dash marks are that I did. There we go, that's what we have so far. So now I'm gonna come back in with this quick grip. I'm gonna put these two together. Okay, so I am going to let this glue set up for a little bit. Then I'm going to take it outside and use that Aleene's spray acrylic sealer in matte. And then we'll come back. When I come back, we'll address the stem for this guy. So what I have here is the wood stems from Dollar Tree. These ones are the longer and skinnier ones. They do have ones that are larger around and a little more short, squattier. So I've picked one of the stems out that I would like to use for the pumpkin. So I have the pumpkin here, which I have already sealed, and I just want to make sure that the stem isn't going to be too long to fit into the frame here. And it appears that it's going to work. Now, what I want to do is to raise this up some. So I have 3 of the tumbling tower blocks, and I apologize, I don't have any packaging here. But what I'm going to do is hot glue 3 of these here to the back so that it will be raised up in the frame here. So I'm going to take my hot glue and just put the 3 on here. Let's just make sure that's still gonna work. And it is. And so it, the stem doesn't stick out as far. Now, if you don't have these stems, you can most certainly just get a stick from your yard if you have one, or when you're out on your nature walk. because we all do nature walks, right? When you go on your nature walk, if you find a stick, just grab it up and you can use a piece of it. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and attach these to the frame, and then we're going to make a bow. And I left a little space there because I am going to put a bow, so that space is going to be covered. Now, to make the bow, I'm still working with some of the little small pieces that I had from last year. So I decided I wanted to use these two, as well as the chevron and burlap. So I'm going to do much like I did the last time, and cut these down because they're a little wide for our pumpkin. So I'm going to start by cutting off a piece using my pinking shears. All right, so I'm going to crisscross these. And I have some twine here. And I also have this garland of pip berries that has some of the coordinating colors of the ribbons here, so I wanted to use that, and that's what the label looks like. So let's see. I think what I'm gonna do is cut 2 pieces of this. And we're going to add this in as well. Okay, so I'm going to pick this whole thing up. Put the twine behind it. I'm going to tie it off here and bring it around to the back. Tie it off in the back. Now, excuse me, what I want to do with these berries is just get a pen and kind of twirl them around the pen. our pumpkin back in. And it's gonna look something like this here. So I think I'm gonna cut down the burlap one just a little bit more. Come on. And you can dovetail the ends of these if you prefer. I'm just going to stay with the pinking shears. And then let's see if I can't. Guess I tied it too tight. Okay, it's all right. Let's put the longer ones to the bottom here. So now I'm going to glue this into place right here where it's concealing that gap. And we can just finesse it a little bit. And if you still feel like some of the pieces are a little bit long, like this piece here is a little bit out of control, you can always trim it off a little bit. And I'm liking that. Kind of spread your bows out. Now you can see this is a little bit jiggly here, so I'm going to come in with just a little touch of glue, just a little bit, please, to kind of keep that from sliding all around. All right, so this is our project here. And I plan on just leaning this, but if you want to hang it, you can do a twine hanger on the back, and that way you can hang it on your wall. So stay tuned for the final pictures. While looking through the Kirklands site, I was inspired to make this 1999 white pumpkin welcome metal sign. With a couple of tweaks to suit my taste, I'm going to show you how I made mine for about $5. If you'd like to see how, just keep watching. I'm going to start this welcome sign with a pack of paint mixing sticks from the Home Depot. It's a 10 pack. I'll be using all 10 of them. And what I want to do is to line up 8 of them about 11 inches apart, and then I'm going to go ahead and secure them together with the other 2 separate ones here. So I'm pretty much just going to eyeball this, just making sure they're pretty much even. But I do know that I want them to be 11 inches apart. So I'm going to take a combination of wood glue, which the Gorilla Wood Glue, and hot glue to put these together. Okay, so I'm going to set this to the side to let the wood glue set up a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, next I'm going to come in with this apple barrel territorial beige, and I'm going to smooth this onto the sign here with a baby wipe. So I'm just going to start doing that, and the purpose of the baby wipe is to help it act more like a stain as opposed to just painting it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and then let that dry. So I want to make sure that I get I just want to make sure that I get the sides as well. And you just want to make sure the whole thing is covered. Okay, so while the sign is off to the side drying, we're going to work on our pumpkin. This is a printout that I got off of Google, and it is a free coloring page. I'll go ahead and link it in the description box if you want to use this same pumpkin. And what we're going to do is transfer this onto some foam core. Now I have two scraps here that I have in my little scrap bin, so I'm going to use these, and we're going to use the scratch on the back transfer method. So I've already pre-done this, so you don't have to watch me do this part. What I am going to do is set this down on here, and I should probably just cut off the bottom of it here. I didn't think that far ahead though, did I? Okay. Just so I can have a good look at what's going on here. I think this was the way I intended it to be on here. So, excuse me. I'm gonna set this down on here, and then I'm just going to trace the outline of the pumpkin and then into some of this area here so that I can use that later on. So I'm just gonna start coloring this in, or marking it in, so I have some place to actually cut the foam board. So this is what I wanted here. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take this other sheet that I have, or little piece, and I'm going to actually just do the center part. So just this area here. So this is what I wanted. So I'm just going to cut this out here, and actually what I'm going to do is make an arrow on the back so I know that this is supposed to be up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on the back so I don't get confused. And so I'm going to cut this whole thing out, and then I'm going to cut around just the outline of this pumpkin. So this is what we have so far. So what I'm gonna do is take a piece of sandpaper and just kind of sand this down a little bit, just to kind of smooth out these edges, or somewhere the foam got caught up, and just get that smoothed out. So I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. So I got the pieces sanded, and I used this 220 grit sandpaper. I'm not sure where this even came from, but it was in our stuff, so I'm using it. So now I realized after I got this done that I had forgotten to do the stem. So I'm going to go ahead and do the stem now, and I'm just going to lay it down on the sheet, and really all I want is the shape right here. And it's not going to be an exact match, but it'll give me a rough idea of what I'm working with here. So I've gotten it to right here. And so the next thing that I'm going to do is figure out what length I want it to be. The one on here is a little bit short, a little bit stumpy. So I'm gonna extend this a little bit, and let's see here. I think I'm gonna go maybe about 2.5 inches from the bottom center here. Let's see if that looks okay, if it's not too big. And so I think what I'm gonna do is bring it up so it's about 1.5 inches wide. Quarter. What if I just freehand it? Let's see if that looks okay. We're just gonna set that there, and we'll be putting some things here in the middle, so oops, my thumb was shaking there. So we'll have a little bit sticking out of the top there. So I think that's going to be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So I've gotten this part done. Let me just trim this little extra paper here, and then I'm going to sand it. So this is basically what I did with the actual pumpkin piece. I just went over it and kind of smoothed out these edges. Okay, so that's basically what I did, and that's what it looks like. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up, and we're gonna go on to the next step. So next what I'm gonna do is start painting on the pumpkin here, and I'm going to be using plaster Waverly chalk paint. I also have steel here, as well as silver lining. So I would have preferred to use the white chalk paint, but I'm just about tapped out of that, so we're just gonna do this. Now, in the past, I've had issues with painting. I'm just doing a full disclosure here. I've had issues with painting foam core. I don't know what it is that I do that makes the big difference, but it always seems to want to peel off and wrinkle up. So what I'm trying this time, after I requested some advice, is to make sure that I do it very thinly. So that's what I'm going to do here, is just do thin coats and not saturate this paper too much. And I'm only going to go to right about here with the color, because we're going to end up gluing this piece on top to give the pumpkin some dimension. So there's no need to waste paint by going too far, or painting the whole thing, I should say. So I'm just kind of doing this in a round motion. Okay, I think that coverage is good. So the next color I'm going to be moving on to is the steel. And the idea here is to try to create some depth in the pumpkin, in the ridges here, so it just doesn't look so flat. I'm not an expert on the painting, but I'm gonna try. So I'm just gonna kind of follow along with the darker color first here. That's gonna be our deepest part. I'm also going to take this gray and come along the edge here of this one. So next I'm going to come in with the silver lining, which is the lighter gray. And I'm just going to try to fade out this darker line just a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to come around here on this piece and just kind of bring that over just a little bit. I'm just, at this point now, I'm just trying to make sure that these are going to match up once I get ready to glue it down. Okay, now I'm really feeling like these lines are a little bit too harsh for what I like. So I think I'm going to go over it again with the plaster color. So let me clean out my brush and I'll be right back. Okay, actually, I've decided to try the apple barrel white. I'm feeling like since I went over it with the chalk paint, the apple barrel will dry faster. and hopefully the paper won't wrinkle. That's the main thing that I'm afraid of, why I wasn't using the acrylic in the first place. But let's go ahead and just kind of do as much of a dry brush over this as possible. And see if I feel better about it. Another option, if you don't want to paint this, is to actually, you could actually cover it with like a patterned scrapbook paper. You don't necessarily have to stay with this palette here. You can, you know, mix it up and do what would work best for you in your home. This is just an idea, and you know, creativity is about doing it how would best suit your needs. And I'm feeling better about this already. So I'm going to go ahead and do this piece as well. And I'm just going over it with a dry brush. You can still see a tinge of the yellow coming through, but the yellow from the plaster, it's not too objectionable to me. Again, if you actually have white chalk paint and you want to do this, I would just go ahead and start there instead of going this roundabout way to get the look that you want. And if anybody has any pointers on how to not let the, I mean, this worked pretty good. It's just not as saturated as with paint as I would normally do. I get pretty heavy-handed with the paint, not gonna lie. But yeah, if you have any tips on how to work with the foam core so that the paper doesn't start wrinkling up and doing all that nonsense, I'd be happy to see it. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and paint the stem. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and just try the acrylic paint. And I'm using the Territorial Beige on this one. It's the same color that we used for the stain. So I'm just going to go for it. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is go ahead and attach the centerpiece. Okay, and I can feel some moisture in this, so what I'm going to do is I want this to completely dry so that I can put a sealer on it. So I'm going to set this aside to completely dry, and then once it's dry, I'll be right back. Actually, before I go, I'm going to go ahead and attach the stem as well, so I can just seal it all as one piece. So I'm just gonna put some hot glue right here, join these two together. And try not to stick it to my table. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So I'm just gonna put this off to the side and let it dry. Okay, so for the next portion, I'm gonna be working on the welcome part of the sign. And I just wanna show you where I got this piece from here. This is from a sign from last year, last fall. It said, "Bless this home," and I just popped it off of there, and because it does resemble the inspiration piece. So we're gonna be using that. For the welcome, this was also from last year, and I'm hoping they bring them back this year, but it's the metal words. And what I did was I primed them both with the plaster Waverly chalk paint. And I'm going to be painting over the welcome with the white. The chalk paint is just going to help this stick more. Now if you have white chalk paint, you can just paint over it for the coverage, but I'm going to paint over this in white. And then this one, I'm going to be painting with the hazelnut. I'm going to be dry brushing hazelnut, and then also this antique wax from Waverly. So I'm going to start with the welcome portion and get that one done here. So here's my paint palette, I guess if you want to call it. And I'm just gonna quickly come over this with the white. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside to dry. Right, so as stated before, I'm gonna be using the hazelnut and then the Waverly antique wax to do this portion of the welcome sign. I don't know if I mentioned, but this is a chip brush, and I'm just doing a dry brush over this just to kind of I don't want a solid layer, but I will be building up the layers here. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside to dry, and then I will be back with the next step. Okay, so next we're going to make the bow that goes on the top of the pumpkin. And I have a few bits and bobs of things from last year, fall time, to make the ribbon. I pulled all of this out and realized I have a bit much for this small pumpkin. So obviously I'm not going to use all of this, but I just wanted to have options. So I think really I am drawn to this one here for sure, this ribbon. And all of these came from Dollar Tree last year, and I'm hoping that they bring them back this year. So I'm really liking this glitter polka dot and the brown. I don't know that I'm gonna use this one for this project, I also have some orange raffia and some burlap ribbon. Now the inspiration piece does have a silver leaf on it. This is a leaf that came off of a ceramic pumpkin that unfortunately broke, but I saved this for a project. I am going to leave it this color just because I do like it this color rather than the silver, to go with these more warmer tones here. So what I'm going to do is start laying out the ribbon. Now you can see that this is a little overpowering large for this, so I am going to cut it down, and I'll be using scissors and my pinking shears to do that. So I think first I'm just gonna, let's see here, I think I'm just gonna cut it. I don't want to cut it too short, so I'm gonna cut it here. And let me measure this just in case anyone needs to know what the measurement of it is right now. I'm looking at about 7 inches that I cut that one down. And I'm going to be taking my pinking shears and cutting it down further. So I'm going to cut off the wire edge. And I still think I'm going to just cut it in half. That way it's not taking over the whole pumpkin. Okay, and I'm going to do the crisscross bow that I typically do just because that's the easiest for me to do. I'm not really a great bow maker, so that one seems to be the easiest for me. So I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the same thing with this ribbon here, and this is a burlap ribbon from Dollar Tree, and I'm hoping it doesn't, because it's a loose weave, I'm hoping it doesn't fall apart when I start doing the cutting. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one in half as well. Okay. I'm going to crisscross those. For the raffia. I think I'll just loop this. Maybe I just need one actually. And I'll loop it over itself. feel like I want more raffia. I don't know, I love this stuff. Okay. So now I'm gonna take a piece of this twine here, also from Dollar Tree, and cut off a little piece of it. And then I'm gonna gather everything up here. I want to put the raffia, got raffia on the brain. I'm gonna put the twine in the middle, and then I'm going to turn it over onto the back and tie it. And this time I'm gonna come back around the front and then tie it off again in the back. Okay. Cut this down. All right, now this is obviously a whole lot for this area, so we're going to cut this down. I really thought it would be easier to work with the longer pieces than try to do the smaller pieces. So that's why I left them a little bit longer than they actually needed to be. Now, if you wanted to, you could dovetail the ends of this. I think I'm just going to stick with the pinking shears this time around. And now I'm going to cut down the raffia. And I really like the look of it to have long and short pieces, so that's why I'm taking the time now to pull some of the pieces over. Okay, I am enjoying the way that this looks. So think we're good to go on the bow. Next thing is to address this leaf here. Now, what I'm gonna do is take my little needle nose pliers here and kind of roll this a little bit more. I'm going to do the same for this one. And these are some old jewelry making needle nose pliers that I have. And for this part, I am going to take this and wrap it around that one. Take it right about here and just wrap it. And then I'm just gonna bend that edge over some so it's not poking out. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay, so I think I'm liking the way that this looks here. So what I'm going to do first is glue this into place. Okay, so I'm gonna take some hot glue. Actually, I think I'm gonna put it right here. I think I'm going to take out just a couple of these. Okay, there we go. I'm going to pull some of these over. All right, so that's what we have so far. So the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get the other pieces out and we'll get this thing put together. It'll be just a moment. Okay, so here is the backing of the whole thing, and I am turning it over to the back, and I just have like a 9-piece inch of twine here that I'm going to go ahead and attach to the back. I don't have a very long hanger on the back just because I don't want the twine to show too much. So I'm going to go ahead and attach it here with hot glue. Just give this glue a little second to set up, and I'm going to bring out the welcome portion and get that put together. So here's our board and our welcome, and I'm going to be using some of this quick grip to attach this, as well as hot glue. Since it is metal, I find that hot glue doesn't always hold it like how you want it to. And I'm trying to minimize the amount of glue that I put on here so we don't have any oozing to the front. Let's get this just a little bit there. This is probably going to dry up before I can even get it to the board, but you know, I gotta try. So I'm just gonna center this as quickly as possible. Yep. And then stick that down. The welcome sign was actually attached by some swirly wires to the pumpkin, but since I made a backing for it, because the original one doesn't have a backing and I wanted it to, so if you're interested in doing that, you can most certainly take a drill and drill here and eliminate the backing altogether and poke a hole through here and attach it together with wire. I decided I didn't want the sign to be that way. I wanted it to have this backing on it. So, okay, so the hot glue is set up. So this welcome sign is actually going to go over these areas here where the indents are. Kind of hide that. And then the pumpkin's going to go right here. And I am actually wanting to attach this with wood glue. And I did forget to mention, and I apologize earlier, that I did go ahead and spray seal this with this sealer here, and the front did well. I imagine because it was painted. The back, however, didn't take too kindly to it. I think it's because it wasn't painted at all. So bear that in mind if you do decide to seal this. I don't know what I was thinking about, but I probably should have painted this. Anyway, so that's that. So here it is. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put some wood glue on here and get these pieces stuck down. Let me just, I think I'm just gonna put this up so you can see. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and stick the pumpkin down the same way. And this is what she looks like so far, so stay tuned to see how this looks hung up. And that's a wrap on my fall inspiration roundup. I hope these 6 easy and budget-friendly video ideas have sparked your creativity and helped you embrace the cozy season. If you enjoyed these tips and want more content like this, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.